think when students join in year 7, there are students that definitely display special needs where an EHCP application needs to be submitted. And often we are thinking, why was this not done at primary school?
Right.
And I don't know if because the environment is that much smaller, and the environment between primary and secondary is so different that potentially at primary school the needs could be managed relatively, but when it gets to secondary school in such a bigger setting, that's when students really struggle.
Do schools quietly, amongst senior management team or whoever it is, are they quite careful about managing how many children they take who have an EHCP? Can they do? I mean, they can't do that legally, but
No, not that I'm aware of. Absolutely not. And actually, what I'm aware of is that with a child with EHCP, they have funding, which I know schools would like more of. So I think we see that as a benefit because it means that that child can get more support.
Okay, so can I flip it the other way? Are there schools who are looking for more children to go down the route of getting an EHCP so they can increase funding, even if it might be a borderline case, it might be, we saw, didn't we, the figures about the disparity across the country between areas that do give out EHCPs and those who don't?
I'm not sure about that. What I would say is our frustration in schools is that an EHCP submission takes ages to come back to us. Meanwhile, that child is on an ADHD pathway or something, but we don't have the funding for them.
Yeah, and that's where it all falls down, doesn't it? Jackie, really appreciate the call. Thank you very much indeed. You're listening to Tom Swarbrick here on LBC. These are the headlines at 5 o'clock.
Everything so far indicates that this was a terrible accident. At this time, we have no other indication.
Authorities in Baltimore say 6 people are still unaccounted for after a road bridge collapsed.
If Julian was extradited to the United States, there is a very real risk and concern that he will not be afforded free speech protections.
Judges at the High Court delay their decision on whether to grant Julian Assange an appeal against his extradition to the US.
We have a special educational needs and alternative provision improvement plan. You don't put that in place unless you acknowledge that you definitely need to improve it.
The Education Secretary Gillian Keegan admits parents are having to fight to get special educational needs support, and
Israel has to be very careful because you're losing a lot of the world. You're losing a lot of support.
Donald Trump calls on Israel to finish up its war in Gaza due to fading support around the world. What friends does Israel's government have left?
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 5 o'clock, officials say a cargo ship which crashed into a bridge in the US city of Baltimore had dropped anchor shortly beforehand. 6 people are still unaccounted for after it had collapsed into the Patapsco River overnight. It's believed they are construction workers rather than those in vehicles. President Biden has been speaking at the White House, where he said the ship had issued a mayday call.
Everything so far indicates that this was a terrible accident. At this time, we have no other indication, no other reason to believe there's any intentional act here. Personnel on board the ship were able to alert the Maryland Department of Transportation that they had lost control of the vessel, which were all known reported. As a result, local authorities were able to close the bridge to traffic.
That's got clogged up, didn't it, that road?
The Skills, Apprenticeships and Higher Education Minister Robert Halford has
I don't know what's causing all this traffic hold up, this build up, I don't
He
know.
believes the next election is the right time for him to stand down as an MP. Meanwhile, Armed Forces Minister James Heappey has confirmed his resignation after it was announced last week. Julian Assange has yet more time to wait to find out if his final attempt to avoid extradition to the US will be successful. The High Court says America must guarantee the WikiLeaks founder won't face the death penalty. UK judges also want assurances over whether he'll be able to rely on free speech rights. Simon Crowther, a legal advisor at Amnesty International, has told LBC the whole case sets a dangerous precedent for journalism.
It sends a message to journalists and publishers the world over that if they receive classified material from a source, which is something that journalists do all the time, and if that material
commodity markets earlier. A study by Which has also revealed Easter eggs from some brands, including Lindt and Cadbury, are at least 50% higher than last year. In the city, the FTSE 100 has closed up 13 points at 79.30. The pound buys $1.26 and €1.16.
LBC Weather.
With Ripple Energy, part on the wind farm for a greener way to power your home.
Rain moving north tonight, turning to sleet in Scotland. Heavy and thundery rain in the southwest, but drier elsewhere. Lows of 2. Outbreaks of rain spreading northeastwards tomorrow. Rain and sleet clearing into the far north of Scotland. Highs of 14 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Amelia Cox.